Hi, this is Mr. Y. This is a game that I played against Collin on April 23rd of 2014, just a couple weeks ago, at the regular meeting of the Wednesday chess group, and I had the black pieces, so I have the board switched around to this side. And, well, let's just take a look at what happened. What's interesting about actually playing a game is that it's harder than analyzing a game, which is something it gets driven home to me every time I play against somebody reasonably strong like Collin. So anyway, I was playing the Sicilian defense, which is one of my favorite responses to e4, just because I really hate the Italian game. Bishop c4 was what Collin played, which is okay. More common is knight f3. That's sort of the usual response, and then you get, oh, I don't know, it could be anything right now. Lots of options. You might see something like this. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. So he played bishop c4, which is a little offbeat. I played e6, defending my f7 square. Knight c3, knight c3, and I played a6, doing my usual O'Kelly queen style, queen's crown formation over here. Knight f3, he's developing fairly normally, which isn't necessarily recommended against a Sicilian sort of opening here. Now I've got b5. That's sort of defines this particular opening. Now this is unusual because usually I recommend that players not play a lot of pawn moves in the opening. Here I've done 4 pawn moves, including these wing pawns, which I tell people not to touch. So I'm going against my own rules here, aren't I? Yeah, well, I've done a little bit of research, and I figured out that this opening kind of works, so that's why I'm doing it. But yeah, as a general rule of thumb, if you don't have purpose behind the moves, then these moves may not be so good. So you have to make sure that if you do move your pawns, that you have purpose. So what I'm doing here is I'm gaining a tempo on the bishop. I'm hoping the bishop is going to go back like this, and then I have the possibility of bringing this pawn forward and really trapping the bishop, or bringing this pawn. Let's see, does this pawn work? Yeah, no, that's all right. And maybe doing something crazy like that. Just totally, again, more pawn moves. What's the better move here? He would have to retreat this bishop here is probably the best move. And then I've got b4, again, attacking the knight. And he goes to knight a4, probably going to the rim, or maybe he goes back into his hole. So, I mean, this is what I'm hoping for. But again, lots of pawn moves. Just trying to grab some space here before I start developing my pieces. Eventually, I'm going to put my bishop on this square, and probably put my queen here and my bishop here, and then I'm going to have vicious diagonals coming up this way if he chooses to castle. But that didn't happen. None of that happened. When I made this move, and he was sitting there thinking for a while, and I made the offhand comment that I had just played the previous day a game against some kid at the San Carlos library. And I think the opening went something like this. I played here, and then he played here, and then I played here. And no, that wasn't it. What was it? How did he get there? Huh. Oh, I know. It was like this, and then I went here, and then he went here, and then I went here. And he had these 2 knights attacking this pawn, and he went for it, and I was shocked. So he's got this really kind of... I've got nothing over on this side, and he's got a knight. And so he's exchanged a knight for a couple pawns, which is quite a sack, and he came out okay. I won the game, but it was a good game. So I mentioned this to Collin while we were playing, and of course our opening had gone a little differently. And So he just went ahead and took my took my pawn with his knight in response to that. So I was like, here I go again. All right, so now I've got another sacrifice for. He's sacrificing a knight for a couple pawns. So there we are. I've got this thorn in my side to deal with. And I looked at this, and for some reason I was thinking that this prevents bringing my knight here, which it does not. I can bring my knight there. That's perfectly reasonable. If he takes it, then I take back. I've got doubled pawns, but who cares? I'm doing all right. But for some reason I was thinking that no, I can't do that. I can't bring my knight there. So I was trying to think of something else to do. So in the meantime, I brought my bishop here, hoping to. I'm not exactly sure what I was hoping to do, and just developing, I guess. He castles, and then I do knight f6, which is a blunder that neither one of us noticed that it was a blunder. I'm gonna pause the video, or let you pause the video now, and see if you can come up with the obvious response, which neither one of us saw. So if you saw this, you win the prize. So okay, neither one of us saw the nice little fork there. But so anyway, so I moved my knight here, and that was a blunder. But fortunately, he didn't see it. So what did he do? D3, and I suppose he's just supporting this pawn and developing this bishop. Rook a. So now I start to deal with this bishop. Rook a5 was probably not the best way to go about it. Maybe if I wanted to do it, maybe I just do something like queen b6 is probably the best to get rid of it. But it's really hard to see these things in the heat of a game. So I went rook a5. He went c4, defending the bishop. Bishop a6. Again, I should have done probably something else, because at this point he can just take the bishop. Now I take, and then he can still do the pawn push. Well, neither one of us, like I said, neither one of us saw that. So this is okay, given that we hadn't seen that. What did he do? He went queen b3 again. So now we're really piling up on this bishop here. And finally, I realized that I can move this, but well, okay, so I moved it here, and he took it, and then I took back. So I've got my doubled pawns. And he still didn't see this, so he went bishop g5, pinning the knight to the queen, and I said h6. All right, you want to take it? That'll develop my queen. I'm happy with that, which is just disastrous. So he took it, and I took it, and he still didn't see this, and neither did I. So he went down here, queen b6. He was hoping to get something out of here. He's forking these two pieces. Obviously, he can't take the bishop, but if I don't move the rook, so I could probably back the rook up a little bit. What did I do instead? I went to queen d8. Oh, I decided to defend the rook this way, which was the best move because it unforked these two pieces, which I didn't see, but nevertheless, it was the best move. And what did he do? Queen takes c6. He took the pawn with check. All right. So I have to do something. I want to keep my castling rights, so I do queen d7, blocking. And he went down here to queen a8. And let's see here. Yeah, that was probably the best move. And I came down here to queen d8. Queen c8 was also a possibility, which is defended by the bishop. And this one's defended by the king. I was happy. If he exchanges queens, I'm happy to not have castling rights, because the main reason to castle is to avoid the queen. So he didn't castle. He went here. I suppose he's attacking the f7 square with the queen. Which is kind of scary. Except that I noticed that his queen doesn't have a lot of squares he can go to at this point. She can go to. Let's see. Let's take a look at him. This one is blocked by the bishop. This one's blocked by the bishop. These two are controlled by my own queen, as well as these two. These are all controlled by my queen. This is controlled by the king and queen. This is controlled by the king and queen. This is still controlled by the queen, by the king rather. This is controlled by the bishop, and this is controlled by the rook. So this queen is running out of squares. So I found this, which attacks the queen, and oops, wrong button. There we go. Okay, attacks the queen, and so now she has only one square to go to, and that's right here. And then she'd be trapped because, again, these squares are all controlled by my pieces, and these squares are all controlled by my pieces. Let's see. Oh, I guess she has this square. This square is okay. I didn't notice that. But all of these are controlled, so she's running out of squares. This square is of course not a no-go. But Collin didn't go there. He decided to do the exchange. So I mean, that was sort of what I was thinking with this move. I was thinking we would end up with an exchange of these two pieces, and the pawn, of course, that I took with this move for the queen. So the queen is worth 9, a pawn is another one, so that's 10, and the bishop and the rook are worth 8 together. So I come out effectively 2 pawns ahead, maybe. So he went ahead and did that. He took my rook. I took back. Oops, I took back with the queen here, and then he took back with the pawn. So we were at that situation now. All right, so g5 is what I played here. Okay, so now the question at this point is, do I castle or don't I? I decided to not castle because the queen is now gone. The white queen, rather, is now gone. So I don't have to worry too much about king safety. And I want to use these pawns for my attack on the king. So the first thing I do is just g5 to start my attack. And my plan here is to go one more square and attack this knight, loosening up this square here. So that's and then I've got a bishop on it, and who knows, maybe I'll be able to swing my queen down behind and come in this way. So that's sort of the bones of my plan. He does a3, which was probably not the best move. Better would have been to go ahead and push this pawn, stopping this pawn push here. So now I can't go to that square anymore because this pawn is protecting it. But he moved a3, and I went to g4, attacking the knight. Knight h4, he put the knight on the rim. I can't really think of a better place for it. So now I do queen c7. Yeah, not a great move. Queen a4 is probably the way to. I should have started going behind. This pawn is hanging. This pawn is hanging. If I go in here, then there's another pawn that's hanging. This pawn is hanging as well. So I should have been starting to clean up according to the computer. I went back here, doubling up on this pawn. Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. So now I've got 2 attackers on that pawn and only the king defending. That was my plan anyway, so I was just going forward with my plan. G3 was the response, the obvious response to stop the attack. And then I went to bishop e7, attacking the knight. The knight doesn't have very many squares to go to, right? The knight is pretty much trapped. That square is blocked, that square is blocked, that square is controlled by my pawn. Knight could go back there, we'll make that green. Or he can just stand there and be willing to be exchanged. I was hoping, an exchange is good for me because that opens up the pawns in front of the king. He does f3, attacking this pawn, which at the time looked to me like a really good move. But it's not, because I just take, he has to take back, and now the result is that this square is completely open. Well, I suppose it's defended a little bit by the pawn, but he doesn't want to do that. I mean, this is just really, really, really bad. So that's not going to happen. So he's going to not push that pawn. Instead, he pushes this pawn forward, which not great. What is the move here? Probably king h1. There's really no good moves here. King h1 is kind of, or maybe yeah, I don't know. All right, yeah, things are looking pretty grim for white at this point. So he pushes h3. so that I can't capture with the pawn here and with check, supported by the queen. Rook g8 was what he played. Where's g8? How did he do that? Oh, it's my turn. Yeah, so he's just moved the pawn forward, so I'm going to support my pawn with my rook, also getting the rook on the same file as the king. This, incidentally, was a big part of the reason why I didn't castle many moves ago, was because I wanted to get my rook onto the g file. If I castle, then the king's on the g file, and I can't put my rook on the g file. So this was a thought somewhere down the line that I would be able to do something like this. So I've got a lot of threats coming in here. He went f4, blocking off the communication between the queen and the pawn. And I went to e5. Probably better would have been something like that. This to attack this weak pawn here and just blast my way through. What I need to be doing here is, and I realized that after I made this move, was that I need to get my queen somewhere back in here, back behind the enemy lines. And especially now that I've got this square here. If I can get my queen on that square, that's checkmate, right? So that's a target for me to get to. So I just have to figure out how to get my queen back there. So he went to f5, pushing forward, preventing me from capturing with this pawn. So yeah, that was my last move, was I just moved here. I guess my intent was to bring that pawn through. He stopped that. Queen d6. So now I'm thinking, okay, so I'll go here, and then I'll go maybe this way, and then maybe over here. That's my idea. Simple plan. He went to rook from A to D1, stopping that idea. So now I have to move my queen again. Again, trying to think how to get behind enemy lines. Maybe I'll go this way. So that's what I did. And then he went rook D5, attacking both of these pawns. Interesting. It doesn't really attack them because both of them are... I'm going to be able to defend this one. So what I did, I just went in here. This defends this pawn anyway. So the rook can't take that. And something that I didn't see, but Collin pointed out to me after the game, that he couldn't take this because then I have a fork on the rook and the king, which I didn't spot. Honestly, so that's why he didn't on this move take this pawn. Instead, he doubled up here, which gives me the I lose the mate. I used to have a mate on this square, right? That's what I'm threatening with this move. Not only am I defending the pawn, but I'm also threatening checkmate. So he moves the rook out here, which gets rid of that mate. But instead, I still have, because I have this pawn here, holding on to both of these squares, I've got what's known as the scooch mate, check, scooch, and mate, which I like. This can be done with a lot of pieces. If you have a knight on this square, let's go back to here. If I had a knight on this square here, I'm running out. I've got too many things showing up. Let's get rid of these. All right. So if I have a knight back here, well, granted, he could take it, but if he doesn't take it, then I've still got the threat of scooch and then mate, because the knight would be controlling both of those. Similarly, if I had a bishop here, it works as well, or a rook over here is another way to do a scooch mate, right? If I have a rook here, then I can go scooch and then mate. But I did it with a pawn, scooch, and the king moved, only move allowable, and then it's checkmate. So that's a mating pattern to know, is the scooch mate pattern. All right, let's take a look at go over this again. So again, playing a game is very different from analyzing a game. It's much easier to analyze a game than it is to play it. Yeah, I recommend learning the king side of the Sicilian defense, because people are going to play the Sicilian against you now and then, and playing these ordinary developing the pieces sorts of moves doesn't work so well. This is the right response here, and then I'll do d6 or something like that, and then you have d4, and then we go through this exchange. This is normal sort of Sicilian. Anyway, okay, so that didn't happen. A bold sacrifice, trying to open up some... Here's some stupidity on my part. Yeah, in so many ways. The nice thing about having somebody go over their own game rather than going over somebody else's game is that you get to hear what I was thinking about at various points. So yeah, he goes ahead and develops my queen, which I thought was great. Was it not? Because he could have forked me. Never did fork me. Came back and defended the rook. Had the right idea here with this move, but I should have done it. I didn't. Did I mention this? The right move here is that. That actually traps the queen. Now there are no squares available for the queen. This is gone. This is gone. This is controlled by the... Oh, wait a minute. This square is not gone anymore. Huh. What if the queen goes here? Then we have bishop takes h2. Really? Bishop take... Oh, here we go. Check. And then you win the queen. Right. So that's the... Okay, so let's see. Let's go over again. Whoops. So this is the right move. Okay, so this square is no good because of the revealed attack on the queen from this queen. So we can draw that arrow in. This square is no good because of the bishop. This square is no good because of the other bishop. This square is no good because of the queen and the king, so forth. This square is no good. This square is no good. And this square is no good. So now the queen is well and truly trapped. So the best she can do is take here and then take back. And now that would have been the best way for me to handle that. I had the right idea, but the wrong move when I moved up here. And he took, and now I start my pawn attack. And then this pawn becomes really, really, really strong. This is an enormously strong pawn. When it gets down to the 6th or 7th rank, pawns are very, especially right in front of the king. It's very strong. So I went in here and it did the scooch mate. Oh, by the way, what he was thinking, what Collin was thinking when he made this move, which was not a bad move. If he had one more tempo, he would have won a rook, right? And the idea is that, well, what am I going to do? Let's say I do, I don't know, something else. No, that doesn't work. Let's say I do this. And he comes down here. Now this rook is defended by the other rook, and I have to move the king out of the way, and then he takes my rook. So that was his plan with the doubling up the rooks on the d file. Unfortunately, he didn't have enough time because I already had the check and forced mate in two. Mate in two. All right, been going on for too long. Hope you enjoyed the game. Go play chess. See you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.